A major boost for the Bahamas from China. News you'll hear on just one station.
Then find out why the Haitian ambassador didn't want to speak to ZNS News and why police had to be called to the embassy.
And one of the country's most wanted faces his day in court. Find out what he's wanted for. The Bahamas tonight. The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
A major breakthrough for the country's tourism and aviation sectors as a significant step was made to shore up both industries with one of the world's superpowers. Good evening, everyone. I'm Charisma Robinson.
And I'm Kendino Knowles. Well, weeks ahead of the much anticipated opening of Bahamar, the government continues to do what it can to collaborate with China's government and private investors to transport tourists to the country. Clint Watson was in China, or is in China, as the Bahamian and Chinese governments signed off on a landmark agreement for air service.
And with the stroke of a pen, history was recorded as the Bahamas and China signed its first ever aviation service agreement, paving the way for direct flights between the two countries. It's a critical link to the success of the multi-billion-dollar Bahamar investment and the key ingredient in the Bahamas' tourism product, reaching record figures in arrivals and employment. Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Perry Christie, says a $3.5 billion investment of China Exim Bank to build Bahamar, China Construction's over $100 million investment in the construction, and now $200 million more invested to the Hilton Hotel. The renovation of the Holiday Inn Hotel, coupled with the huge investment in Grand Bahama of the Hutchinson Whampoa Group, are all sufficient for China to see the advantage of offering direct flights to the Bahamas.
As you know, in 2013, we had a waiver of visa, so making it eligible for our people without visas to visit the Bahamas and, of course, Bahamians to visit China. And so everything is in place for there to be this air services agreement and the beginning of a new chapter and air services between China and the Bahamas.
Transport and Aviation Minister Glenys Hannah Martin, who signed the agreement, called it significant and a great exchange for both aviation departments.
China perhaps produces more tourists than any other country in the world, currently 100 million tourists. Of that, the Bahamas gets approximately 1,000. And they anticipate that in 3 years, that number will double. So you're talking about a significant market in terms of the tourism involvement. And so to now create a protocol between the two states that will facilitate air services is an incredible facility and has serious implications for the Bahamas. So we're very excited by it. It's a major leap forward in terms of structurally in our aviation sector, and has really some very, very serious implications for our economy, for job creation, for just major economic expansion.
Signing on behalf of China was Minister of Civil Aviation Li Jiaxing.
这个再次你来访呢，更进一步促成了这项工作。
Well, I think your visit further promote the signing and the consultation of our two aviation authorities on the text of the air service agreement.
看看总理还有什么要求，还有什么想法，我们都尽快的推进。
So, Mr. Prime Minister, if you have any demands or proposals, we'll try our best to facilitate everything.
Prior to signing the agreement, the government met with one of China's largest air carriers, Hunan Airlines. Not only is this company involved in aviation, but also several other investment opportunities as well. The company's vice president, Wei Ho, is of the view the Bahamas could be a great place to invest. As for airlift, while there may be immediate concerns, he believes those issues can be worked out. A view principal of Bahamar, Sarkis Marillion, is pleased to hear.
I think there are several factors. One is the technology, because you need the equipment which is capable to take the distance. It's quite far away from here. I'm not sure that if the existing aircraft that we have is capable of doing that. But we will find out. We have a lot of U.S. destinations, so a stopover in the U.S. could be a good idea.
Absolutely. The meeting we've just had with Hainan Group was very encouraging. They're the fastest growing tourism and airline group in China, and they seem to be quite interested in having further discussions about the Bahamas.
It's the beginning of a new day for tourism, according to the Prime Minister, and we're already beginning to see signs of it. All throughout China's daily paper, there's an article talking about the Bahamas and China's relationship, talking about the days ahead with tourism. Below that, there's a big ad here on Bahamar, already beginning to get the message out that the Bahamas is open to this part of the world. In Beijing, China, Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
Well, Chairman of the China Export-Import Bank, which is financing the $3.5 billion Bahamar project, met with government and Bahamar officials today to discuss the work. Although initially expressing concern about the delayed opening and other challenges, the bank executive says he's pleased with the investment and looks forward to the resort's spring opening. Meantime, the vice president of China State Construction Company, which is leading the upscale project, says the resort will be ready.
I think it is a good project. It will create more jobs opportunities for the young people in Bahamas. We are happy to support it.
Any concerns you may have as far as being able to see the returns on your investment?
Well, I think with the recovery of the economies in the United States, and I believe the project will meet their very good time.
We are, I think, now at 93 to 95% of the completion. So there, with this slightly less than 3 months to go, that we left something like 5 to 7% of work to be done. I think since we are the specialist and the contractor, that we dealing with this kind of situation day and night, every day. So we are very confident with the support and the cooperation, the client and the bank. I think we are on track to deliver the project on the 27th of March.
Now, key to this multi-link approach is ensuring the success of the Bahamar project through tourism promotion in China.
There is good momentum of the bilateral tourism cooperation, and we see even bigger potential in this regard. Both of our countries should facilitate the travel between our two countries, and now the mutual visa exemption, the waiver policy agreement in existence is a very good arrangement. During the meeting with the Prime Minister, I mentioned that we hope to see more Chinese language signage in major tourist attractions in the Bahamas, including the airport, the cruise terminals, and in the restaurants. And the most important thing is to guarantee the safety of the tourists.
Government is moving ahead with plans to revamp its mortgage relief plan. It's something that continues to concern Prime Minister Perry Christie. The Prime Minister revealed that government is currently meeting with one of the country's leading banks to discuss a new formula, one he says he's happy with.
It is an enormous problem for the country because there are people who are in homes. It doesn't make sense for the bank to put them out because the homes will be vandalized, but who are not paying mortgages, and some of them are not paying mortgages because they don't have any jobs and they can't. There are others who have jobs and who are not paying mortgages for whatever reason. That has to be dealt with. And there are some who have now jobs, but in losing the jobs months, a year, 2 years ago, that the interests have built an extraordinary amount and it's very difficult for them to meet the payments.
Prime Minister Perry Christie called the formula innovative, but one where both government and the banks will have to take a hit. But in the long run, he's confident it will go well for the country.
They need the kind of relief we're talking about and the kind of direction that we're talking about. And this is in the context of their continuing to do business in the Bahamas. It is something that we have to be mindful of. The world has changed globally in terms of know your customer rules and all of the conditions that are evolved in terms of banks. And so the future of the Bahamas looks good. We just have to continue to work with what we have.
The Coalition for Responsible Taxation says it does not intend to let up on government now that value-added tax has been implemented and will continue to push government to practice fiscal responsibility.
Coalition co-chair and Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employees Confederation Chairman Gowan Bowe says the group was never anti-VAT, but was concerned with ensuring it was the right tax and encouraging government to reduce spending.
We've been pushing very heavily, and we're going to continue to do so on fiscal responsibility, getting legislation and rules in place that will force government to adhere to best practices as it relates to its spending limits and what it does. We want programs to be analyzed before they are announced and before they are implemented, because part of fiscal responsibility is saying, how have I analyzed, how am I going to pay for this? Too often governments have a little bit of a carte blanche, because if it sounds politically correct, or if it touches the sentiment of the constituent, then they can go ahead and implement something with no clue as to how it's going to be paid for.
When it comes to collecting taxes, government has not always been successful. Bowe says now that VAT is in place, compliance is key. He says every dollar collected on behalf of government must be remitted, and done so in a timely manner.
We can't accept anything less than a very high compliance rate. So that means that there has to be clarity and purpose from the VAT unit. There has to be clarity and purpose from their compliance function. There has to be clarity and purpose from the controller position in terms of how things are administered, so that we have the greatest compliance level that we possibly can have. And when you look at comparing where we are today and where we want to be, that's a remarkable jump. I mean, when we look at customs, etc., you know, we're saying that it's under 50%. Real property tax, we can see certainly below 50% in that regard. So we have to get this one up into the high 80s, 90s.
Still to come, find out why the police had to be called into a local embassy.
And police on the scene of another crime. You're watching The Bahamas Tonight.
This segment of the news is brought to you by Shell Quality Fuels.